our next speaker is somebody who trained leaders in the UK's National Ambulance Services, people at the UN HQ in Vienna, some of the Fortune 500 companies, as well as small companies, around 20 people. He's also a risk expert and a leadership speaker. Please welcome Hélio on stage.
Thank you. And now we're going to talk about chaos. Like, I'm not going to ask anyone to raise their hand right now to say if you had some chaos or disruption during the pandemic, because I'm thinking like 99% of everyone here had some disruption. But I want to ask you to raise your hand if you experienced any chaos, any crisis, or any disruption before the pandemic in a smaller level. Everyone, right? Also, I can guarantee to you that although we might not have another pandemic in the future, you're going to have some crisis. You might have some company crisis. You might have some national crisis, financial crisis, global crisis, any other kind. That you're going to have. And that's when your leadership skills are going to be needed. The thing is, the pandemic happened about 2.5 years ago. It's going to be hard for you to remind yourself of that challenge. And one of the things for you to become a better leader in a chaotic environment is to know how you're acting right now. So I'm going to test you. I'm going to put you in a little bit of a chaotic situation in a moment, and I'm going to test how you behave, and I want you to pay attention on that. But let me give you a little example, because a lot of we talk about like, oh, we need to simulate crisis. But how do you simulate crisis? A while ago, I was training, special operation training in Czech Republic, and we had limited resources to do a lot of things. Like, for instance, we did not have a long enough gun range to talk about, to train how to shoot within a moving vehicle. So how did we overcome that challenge? Our instructors started jumping outside the car, and we inside had to control our guns in order to aim at a target and effectively hit the target. That's a much safer environment than within the gun range we will be going out in circles. But that's not a very chaotic environment. That's kind of predictable. It's bumps and like you're going up and down. How do you train to be calm when someone is shooting back at you? What can you do? How can we get trained for that? Because it's not like we can give everyone a gun and say, like, shoot at each other. That would be Hunger Games. We had to do something else. So what our instructors did, like one of the things that they did was they grabbed me on my bulletproof vest and we start walking around the range. And we start talking like nothing's happening. And out of nowhere, he said, like, there was 2 targets in the end of the range, by the way, one on the left, one on the right. So we were walking by, and he was asking me questions, and out of nowhere, he's like, left, right, don't, left. And he was shaking me around like that. And it was this really intense situation. My heart got pumped. It's the closest things you can replicate to a real situation, because you have all this cortisol being built up in the brain. Like we saw yesterday on the first thing, we need to be able to control that. And that situation put a cortisol in our brain. And our brain doesn't know if the cortisol is coming from a bullet flying in our direction or for this whole confusion of being dragged out. So much so that when I'm telling you this story here, it might appear to you like it appears to me, very intense. But if you see the video that I recorded from me doing that, it might not look so much because there's no cortisol involved. It's just something like that. Can you please put the sound, please? Oh, we don't have sound. That doesn't look anything worrisome at all. There's no stress because there's no sound. But imagine the person screaming out loud, left, 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 right, 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 go down, reload, reload. Like all that in a span of 10, 15 seconds. My brain was like, how can I make good decisions? At that moment, you don't care about like, oh, I need to aim correctly, I need to put the front side and the rear sides correctly. No, you just do it instinctively. And that gets you used to that. So we're not going to shoot anyone here. I'm not going to give you any guns. But we're going to do the second best thing. We're going to create a little bit of chaos. And since we talked so much about the World Cup yesterday, one of the things that we see in the World Cup, there's a little bit of chaotic, but still with good leadership can be done perfectly. It is the wave, you know? On the stadium, when everyone's doing the wave, you imagine 10,000 drunk people doing it perfectly. And hopefully you're not drunk. But I know there's other things that make it harder for you here right now than for the people on the stadium. Some of you might be thinking, oh, what other people are going to think about me? I don't really want to do that. It's like going to make me look silly. Or I don't think this works. So you're going to have all those things into your mind. And we're going to do it 2 times. The first time, I want you to pay attention to how you're leading yourself. How you can get yourself to do something that you feel uncomfortable doing without any big sides of, like, a big understanding of how is that going to fit. And then afterwards, we're going to explain how that fits on you. And then we're going to do a second time with another experiment. So let's try now. On 3, I'm going to help you with my hand. I'm going to do like this. And as I do, you got to organize yourselves to do this, leading first yourself. Each person, you're going to lead yourself right now. Are you ready? Yeah? So let's go. 1, 2, 3, go! Oh! Okay. Great job, guys. Great job. I was expecting less energy the first time. Serious, because there's a lot of the mental thing going on. Like, we don't want to do things a lot of times. So what I want you to pay attention is what kind of conversation you had in your head right now, in those few seconds. What was your motivator? Or what was your obstacle for doing that? Think about that for 10, 15 seconds. And I want, as you're thinking, I'm going to be talking about the next part. We tested out now your self-leadership. Now we're going to test you the leadership of others. I'm going to give you 15 seconds. You're going to talk to the person to your right and to your left. And your goal is to motivate them using whatever strategy is necessary to get them to perform at their best. Are you ready? Go, 15 seconds. Okay, time's up, time's up. Let's see how good of a leader you are right now. Let's start then. 3, 2, 1. Whoa! Good job, guys. Give yourself a round of applause. That's really good. Now I'm asking you, think to yourself right now, what did I do? What did I use to motivate other people? Did I use the same strategies that I did to myself? Did I try to understand what I did beforehand? Did I pay attention to what I did beforehand on the first time? Think about all those things, because I can guarantee to you that how you behave right now in this silly experiment is how you behave at work. It's how you behave in your personal life. We are creatures of habits. We do the same things over and over and over again. And if you did not play full out, I can guarantee you're not playing full out. If you did, I can guarantee you normally do. If you were shy about talking to a stranger or your coworker, try to pump them up, I can guarantee that a lot of things are holding you back because you're afraid of actually putting the opinion forward, trying to impose yourself a little bit more or acting up as a leader. But now let me ask you another question. As a leader, are you doing the things to get the best results possible? or the results you want? Can I ask you again? As a leader, are you going for the best results possible or the results you want? Might seem confusing, right? Like, of course, I want the best results possible. Or some of you might think, I don't get any results at all, much less the ones I want. But let me give you an example. This is my house, or the view from my house. If you look at this picture, you can see three things right away. If you look at the houses there, you see that I live in a residential neighborhood. If you look at the car in the middle of the street, you see that the street is not that wide, so there's normally only one car going through. And if you look at the dent in my car here, you see I'm not a good driver. But let's forget number three. Let's focus on the first two things. And let me give you a little bit more information. In the direction where this car is going, it goes through a series of streets that end up in dead-end streets. So people going that way, they're normally going home or visiting someone, or they are doing some work in the people's home. So there's not much of a hurry to get there. The people going towards where my car is pointing, they're going to the city. So they're going to work, they're going to the hospital, they're going to the kindergarten, to school, whatever. In winter, the situation gets a lot worse because the snow comes up and the street becomes even smaller because the plow truck we have is not the whole size of the street. So it can barely pass a delivery van. And what people do when they are people coming in two different directions is the person who is going towards the house, they normally go over that sidewalk over there or over the sidewalks along the street. So the person going to the street can go first. It takes 5 minutes to do this passing. During the winter, certain areas get used more often, like this area here, the sidewalk there besides the car there. Well, one day I was going into the car with my family, and I waited for the car who was coming to pass. But when the woman stopped by there, when she passed by there, she stopped. And out of nowhere, she was looking like this. She was super angry and screaming and let's call her Karen. And there was this other woman in the car going towards the city that wanted to go in. Now, how everyone would do is they would go on the side, the person who's going to the house, and the person that goes to the city goes through. It's 5 seconds interaction. Karen did not want to have that. She wanted to have her own way. She wanted the other woman, let's call her Mary, to get out of the way. So Karen starts saying, "Get out of here, I want to go home," etc. Well, that's what I think because I was not in the car with her. It was like when my own car I couldn't hear. But she was like acting super, super angrily, trying to make Mary get out of the way. But Mary couldn't. She couldn't go on reverse in the car because it's very narrow. So what happened is, in the end of a minute and a half, Mary decided I can't win this fight, so I'm just going to go over the snow a few times and I'm going to make my own space there so she can go through. And that's what happened. Now, I don't know if Karen had a bad day at work. I don't know if she had an emergency at home. I don't know if she was just heading the runs and really needed to go to the bathroom. What I know is, whenever you're driving a car, or let's say 99% of the time, the best results possible is to go from point A to point B in the shortest amount of time within security, while you're safe driving. So if we think about this goal, this best results possible being the best, being going from point A to point B in the fastest amount of time, Karen got the worst kind of results possible. But she got the results she wanted. The other person yielded. She got the power. She got what she wanted. But instead of getting into 5 seconds, it was a minute and a half. That's 18 times the time. She could have gotten a lot faster. So let me ask you the question again. As a leader, are you going for the results you want or the best results possible. Think about that case next time you think you're having some trouble going on and you try to think, like, I'm going to solve this thing my way. And another thing, since we're in this photo here of the man angrily talking, we talk so much about leadership, and when we talk about the autocratic leadership or the authoritarian leadership, it has a bad rap, right? Nobody wants to be an authoritative leader. We look at them maybe with some respect, but we don't want to be that kind. But I'm going to tell you something. It's necessary to be that kind. Sometimes it's necessary. Think about it. This building here is on fire right now. Everyone is nervous. Imagine I come to you and say, wait a second, let's sit down, everybody. Okay, let's actually have a standing meeting here. The building's on fire, but there's 2 exits over there. There's 1 exit over there. If you guys are up there, there's 4 different kind of stairs. Which one do you think is better? We all would burn and die. But if instead I say, everybody, go, 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 there, you guys in the front, let's go over here, it's a lot safer. It's a lot better for that environment. So we need to adapt the leadership to the situation you're in. The best style of leadership is not dictated by our preferences. It is dictated by the situation we're in. Okay, sometimes you're using a certain framework, so you might go, oh, I'm using SCRUM, so I'm going to be working within the servant leadership model. Or, you know what, I think democratic leadership might be better, or this kind of leadership might be better. And you can discuss that all you want, but it's just like this picture here. There's a better tool for the job. Like, it would be unfair to do this test where the elephant has to climb the tree, where the penguin has to climb the tree, the fish. No, for climbing the tree, we're going to use the monkey. But what if the challenge is not climbing a tree, but swimming in the upper river? The monkey is not the best option. The best option would be the fish, or the seal, or move a big boulder. It would be the elephant. So there's different kinds of leadership for different kinds of situations. And if you're holding yourself up to a place where, oh, no, you know, I need to keep within a certain style of leadership because that's how I learned to be and that's what the best thing is, you're going to get worse results. You're not going to get the best results possible. Because the best style of leadership is the one dictated by the moment, not by our preferences. How many times don't we actually try to do that? I learn a certain way, I'm going to behave a certain way. Everything else is not working, but we keep on the same strategy. That might not be the best. We need to be able to adapt. And as Bruce Lee would say, we need to be like water. If we're in a cup, we need to adapt to that cup. If we go to a jar, we need to adapt to that. Same way for our leadership. And since we are here as well, we talked about diversity yesterday. And I love what the speakers were saying, like, because a lot of times we think diversity is having, oh, I need to have half the team being men, half the team being women, I need to have some people of color, I need to have some people from the LGBT, et cetera, et cetera. And when we look at the photo, the company photo, the team photo, it looks like super diverse. It looks like, wow, this company is really good in diversity, really good in inclusivity. But when we look down at the people's skills, at the people's backgrounds, we see that they all grew up in the same neighborhood. They all went to the same kind of schools, same kind of universities. They had the same financial situation. There's not much diversity of thought. When we might have a room full of, as I was called once, pale white males, that is completely different. They might have grew up in different backgrounds, they went to different schools, they have different skill sets. So as long as we keep on judging people or leadership styles by their appearance, we're never going to actually have a clear understanding of our teams or what do they actually need. Like, for instance, I'm going to get some people on stage right now here for a little demonstration. If you are a man with beard, please stand up. Man with beard. Okay, could you please come on stage? The 5 of you, could you please come? Let's give them a hand. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything too hard to do. But we have here a group of pretty much pale white males like me. The reason why I got the beard is because beard is more of an intense thing, and I'm going to talk about it later. So I want you all to close your eyes. Okay? Close your eyes, and I'm going to give you a paper. Could you please get the paper that I'm giving you? In a second, I'm going to make sure, give everyone a paper. And we are kind of running out of time, so I'm going to be giving you all a paper here. And I'm going to give you comments really fast, okay, so you can understand. So please fold the paper in half right now. Please fold the paper in half. And as you folded the paper in half, I want you to fold the paper by an extra 1/3. So I folded the paper in half. Don't open your eyes. Fold it by an extra 1/3 after you fold it in half. Then pick up the top right corner and tear it up. Top right corner, tear it up. You can drop it on the floor. There's no problem. And then after that, you're going to pick up the bottom left corner of the paper, and you're going to tear it up as well and drop it on the floor. There's no problem. After you drop the bottom left corner and the top right corner, I want you to please open your eyes and see the results you did. Let's get a show up to everybody so everybody can have a picture. Thank you. Thank you guys very much. So I want you to understand one thing. They all had the same set of instructions. They all were pretty much looking the same. But they got completely different results. Why was that? Any guesses? Huh? Cows. Maybe. But I gave one person the paper in a different orientation, so that was a little bit of cheating. But because I asked them to close their eyes, and because of my style of leadership right now, which I did it on purpose, of not letting them ask me questions, they started acting as they thought. And they folded the paper by an extra 1/3. I don't even know what I mean when I say that. They did not ask the question. They did not clarify. It was the bottom 1/3, the top 1/3, the bottom 1/3. What was it? And the reason why I asked them to close their eyes is because if everyone with their eye open, the most confident person will guide the way. So that person could be doing wrong, and the person beside him would be doing right. But the person doing wrong would be more confident. They would just keep on looking and seeing oh, maybe that's the way, so I'm going to change. So, of course, the best style of leadership on a day-to-day situation for you is not going to be like I did right now. But what I want you to understand is that sometimes we need to understand what people are doing and how people behave in order to create strategies. A few years ago, I was speaking to this group of CFOs from Slovakia, and there was this woman there, and before my talk, I was sitting down at a table with them, and we were talking. She was saying that she remodeled the whole floor to attract and retain talent. So she was putting video games and ping pong table, all those things that we see at Google. And as she was saying that, I interrupted her and said, wait a second. None of those things are working, right? People are not really using. And she said, no, I'm frustrated because I did all this effort, I spent a lot of money, I had to remodel the whole floor, and people are coming from the sales department and from the IT department to play with my facilities. So back then I did not know much about accounting, so I was asking her questions back and forth. And in the end I realized that the accountants have predictive chaos. Every month end, quarter end, and year end, they have a little bit of chaos going on because that's the time that they're the busiest. They need you to fill up things, and they need to complete those things in a certain time. So I suggested her something. I said, instead of doing that, how about next month end, you hire a massage therapist and pick up one of the meeting rooms, put the table to the side, let them put the massage table, and everyone gets a 15, 30 minutes massage. Unfortunately, I did not keep in touch with her, and I don't know how it worked out for her. But a few months later, I went to this other accounting conference, and I was, after the gala dinner, I was taking the bus back with the delegates, and the guy came to me and said, "Oh, I love your presentation. You're going to do skydiving now," because my risk management presentation talked about skydiving. And then we start talking, and I asked him a question, say like, "Wait a second, a few months ago, this happened." I told him the story. And then as I was telling what my suggestion was, he interrupted me and said, "We did exactly that, and our people loved it. I mean, we did not have actually someone coming to the floor. We gave them vouchers to go across the street, but it was amazing." And ever since then, whenever I go to an accounting conference and I ask this question, normally I find one or two people who can actually had something like that happening. But why did Google's strategy did not work, but the massage did? Because the Google strategy is set up for some of Google employees. An insurance company, an accounting company, is completely different. The people that have different realities. You need to understand how they operate. And your team is going to have completely different realities. Maybe that's not what Google does that is going to make your team enjoy working with you. Maybe it's not this massage thing. Maybe something completely different. But you're only going to know once you stop looking at everyone like as the same and start like understanding their needs as an individual and as a group as well. But not as a group as like, oh, what do DevOps like to do? No, what do my team likes to do? What would benefit my team? What kind of leadership do they need? And when you do something like that, it is amazing, the results. I'm going to share with you now something that I saw during the pandemic. But before the pandemic, I was working with the ambulance leaders, the CEOs, the COOs, and all of the guys that takes care of the ambulance centers in the UK. They have about 10 different regions, so they have 10 different organizations. But we were working together. Then I stopped working with them when my work was done. And I kind of like forgot about it. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I started seeing a lot of tweets from ambulance leaders popping up on my Twitter feed. And I was thinking, what happened? And then I was thinking, I got in touch with the person, and then I figured out who was responsible for this movement. And when I was asking him a question, it was the CEO of the Wales ambulance service. When I was asking him a question, like what inspired him to have this leadership idea, which I'm going to share with you now, he was telling me what happened. Like, if you're in from the health and safety world, there's a thing called compliance. That's the #1 key metric for health and safety professionals. Because it's so hard to get people to do what they need to do in order to keep themselves safe. In the case of the pandemic, it was to wear properly the face mask. Paramedics are all the time going to pick up people with COVID symptoms. So they needed to have the face mask with their beard needed to fit exactly what the face mask here show. And I was asking him, how did he come up with the idea that got people to have over 80% compliance without having to send any memo or anything like that? He was saying that he saw this graphic from the CDC, and he thought about, maybe I should do something similar. Maybe I should take a picture, and then we do something like that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. But then I understood my people. I understand how hard it is. And the men who came on the stage here can tell you how hard it is for men who had beard for ages for them to shave them. Okay, it's for a good cause, but like if you look at the tweets, this man in the middle, he had 20 years, his beard. Can you imagine? You have the same look for 20 years, and then you shave it without having to read a memo, without being forced to, but by the inspiration of your leader. And what did this leader do? He could have used the authoritative leadership like he has used sometimes. He did not choose that. He could have gone for a more democratic kind of leadership. He still did not do that. He could have simply asked. He did not do that. What he did was he understood what his people were going through. He understood how hard it is for them to shave. So even though he was working in an office job and he went to home office, he and his chief of operation decided to create a video of them shaving themselves. His beard was not that big even, but this me-first kind of leadership allowed him to inspire. Within a couple of days after he posted his video, the majority of his workforce got it. So because he understood his people, and because he chose the best style of leadership possible, in a time of crisis, in a time of chaos, he was able to think that clearly, and what happened? He got the best results possible. Not the results he wanted. He wanted to have the compliance only, but he got compliance without resistance. And he was saying, like, I got surprised. I thought it would be 50% of the people complying. No, it was like 80%. And more than that, within a couple of days, not only the Wales ambulance service, but the whole ambulance service in the UK joined them in that. And not only that, the whole healthcare system in the UK joined them on the hashtag. And more than that, in a week he was on BBC explaining what he did. And in less than a week, Gillette, the razor blade company, was able to create this campaign where all you needed to do is to put your NHS email and your address into a website they created, and they would send the razor blade to them. And they wouldn't even keep the email in the database. It was just a way to verify and they worked for the national healthcare system. So one idea, a silly idea, in a time of crisis, because he first thought, okay, I'm going to lower my cortisol, as we learned yesterday, lower my cortisol level, increase my testosterone, because he's working out. So he was able to think clearly. And even though he had one idea before, he decided to change that. And that allowed him to perform better. And allowed him to get a result that was way better than the best result he imagined. He did not think that he would inspire the other ambulance service. He did not think that he would inspire the whole country healthcare system, all the workers. But he did that because he understood the people and he understood what they're going through. And he looked for the best solution possible. And I can tell you, it's not only that. If you look at the Starbucks in 2008, in the financial crisis, what happened? Starbucks was about to close. Because when there's a financial crisis, the least worries you have is buying your venti, latte, whatever. So the CEO of Starbucks, what he did was he understood that the company would have to go down if he wouldn't do something drastically. And he had to get people to take a 10, 20% cut in their salary. Now, would you be able to convince everyone in your team to take a 10, 20% cut? What he did was really amazing, was a genius idea. He was also the owner of the company. So like, he was experiencing loss anyways. What he did was he took a 99.99% pay cut. He was only keeping $1 as a salary so he could keep the health insurance. And what he did was he convinced all the senior management to do the same. And when he did that, the employee said, yeah, I can take a 10, 20% cut. It's going to be to save the company. It's going to be to keep afloat. It's going to help us not to have to close any stores. And he did that. So now, I need 4 more courageous people to end here. Only thing is, you don't have any problems with your back. Now I need 4 courageous people. Can I find them? No one. Let's get some volunteers. Yeah, you have a problem with back. 1 there. Let's give him a hand. 3 more. 3 more volunteers. Well, let's see who are the most courageous leaders in this conference. 2 there. 2 more. There's no courageous people here? Where are the leaders that step up to the challenge? 3 there. The last courageous person here. Who can here be branded as the 4 courageous fighters of Stretch Conference? Let's see. There, let's give him a hand. Yeah. Can you help? Okay. You guys came for a challenge without knowing what it is, so that's very courageous. Thank you. So wait a second. Please take a seat as I'm putting the chairs. We're talking about leadership. Thank you. Wait a second. Put some of the chairs here. Okay. Yeah, I need to shift yours real quick. Yeah. And I need to shift yours as well. Wait a second. Yours? Mine? Yeah, okay, it's correct. And yours here? Sit here, please. So what I want you to do now is turn 90 degrees to your left. No, with the chair stays the same. Pretty much your left arm has to be over the thing. So I'm going to ask you to lean in each other, like every good performing team. You can put the chairs a little bit closer, actually. And put your shoulder blades on each other's legs. Because you see, what is the key of good performing team? We have to think about what is the best goal possible. We need to understand our people. We also need to be able to trust ourselves and others. Because when you do that, can you please raise your butt a little bit? We can have a bad day. We can even have a bad week. Or even a bad month. And now for the last one, I want you guys to give a big round of applause. We can even have a bad year and great. Give them a hand. Okay. Okay. Wait a second. Yep. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Cheers. And thank you as well. Thank you. Oh, afterwards, come to them and give them a congratulations, because they are courageous. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That was unexpected, I would say. We have some time for Q&A. We do have questions as well. What do you have on your trouser on both sides?
Yeah, those are called tzitzis. In the Bible, I'm Jewish and Christian, so in the Bible there's a commandment to keep those tassels on our sides to remember the commandments of God. So those are called tzitzis.
Thank you. What's the best way to choose leadership style? What's the best way to choose leadership style for the situation? Is there a moment of realization followed by a specific decision, or just follow our instincts?
I hate the follow instincts kind of thinking, because it leads us to pretty much choose our preferences. I would say, look at the situation and see, is my leadership style working? If not, what I'm going to do? Pretty much like the lean cycle. I plan to use a leadership style. I do it. Does it work? If it works, I keep it. If it not, I analyze again, choose another one, and adapt. And you need to use your business skills, your leadership skills, your feedback, your experience, to allow to see, like, is this thing good for the situation or not.
Thank you. How can leaders be trained to be calm during chaos?
Yeah, I was talking to a few people yesterday about that. One thing I like to do is kind of like this training that I was part of, where I put myself in chaotic environments and I need to test myself. So like, for instance, if I would do that with leaders, let's say there's a group here of 7 people. Let's learn how to do better. I'll take you all, for instance, to a pool, and I give you a simple equation, like pretty much like the first speaker yesterday said. Like I give you a simple thing, but I put you under stress. I put you under the water, wait for 15 seconds, and then you need to give the answer under the water before you can breathe. That's going to create something. That's going to tell your brain that the chaos you're experiencing is not as bad as you think. Because any person here, if you don't smoke, I can say pretty easily that you can stay under the water 45 seconds to a minute before you pass out. So if I put you in a situation like that, where I generate the stress in a controlled environment, you can do that. I don't recommend you do that on a pool by yourself, but if you have like, a friend who's a very good lifeguard or is a very good swimmer or something that can understand how to rescue that situation, you can do something like that. Or you can start putting yourself into a little bit of chaotic situations in other parts of your life. In business, I wouldn't recommend, but I would recommend you take bigger decisions more often. Getting used to take bigger decisions and creating control chaos. But the real chaos should really be training. I would say do it outside with professionals or someone that can make sure that you're safe as well.
Thank you. What's the best way to keep ourselves updated on new leadership techniques, trends, besides going back to Stretch every year?
See what is your problem. What is your challenge? What is the challenge you're passing? What is like the most pressing thing that you cannot go through? Like, I have this really difficult person that I cannot get through it. I'm trying to use this style of leadership. Doesn't work. Okay, what others are there? Okay, I'm going to go on Google or I'm going to go on Amazon and try to look for leadership books. And then try something else or try something else. The thing is, you need to choose your leadership books, trainings, conferences. A conference is not much because here you can get a lot of information, so it's a little bit different. But in terms of books, which are more like specific, and you're going to commit yourself to a week or a month reading, and then later on a lot of implementing, then I recommend you to actually pick up one that you think might fit the situation you're in. So it might be a leadership book, by the way, or it could be something completely else, like how to make friends and influence people. It can be something like getting to the yes, or something that's completely non-leadership, but if it's going to help you reach the leadership goal that you're having, that's valid. What is important is not the strategy. What is important is the result in the end.
Thank you. How can you lead remote teams through chaos? For example, complete organization change and project ramp downs.
Yeah, that's one thing I love. That's like my specialty, actually. Like, let's say a merger or a breakdown or like downsizing or whatever. People are going to have fears. You need to understand what they are. And maybe you don't have the trust enough to actually go ask people and get an honest answer. Then you try anonymous survey. Then you try to read between the lines. But try to understand what are the concerns of people, what are their fears. And then from there, you based your strategy. Or let's say you're talking about with the higher-ups. Like, great example in the pandemic as well. There's this company in Brazil, this big investment company, 5,500 employees, and they were afraid of doing remote work. But their leader was smart. What he did was he made a backup plan. Like, if we ever need to do remote work, what can we have set up beforehand in order to tackle down the challenge? And what he did was he had this in the back of his drawer. When the pandemic hit, he pulled out, boom, in less than a week, 5,500 people with remote working with complete cybersecurity. Not complete, but the same one that they have in the office. That's because there was organizational change that he did not want to do it. But just because you don't want to do something doesn't mean that you cannot prepare for it. Remember that just because there's something you don't want to do doesn't mean that you cannot prepare for it. Like, you need to be able to respond fast, accurately. And by the way, when you're in a chaotic situation, the court is always up, okay? You're going to make poor decisions. The best way to actually make better decisions more often doing a chaotic situation is try to predict it and make the decision beforehand. You don't need to act out on that. You need to have that on your back pocket. So, oh, another pandemic, here's what I do. Oh, financial crisis, here's what I do. Oh, it is change of leadership, or this is what I do. Or this thing, or this is what I do. You need to have this prepared so you don't have the stress to make the decision when you're under chaos.
All right, thank you. And thanks a lot for coming and being here with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.